Hey, 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 this is Seagrove, and today I'm here with four really great players to help you guys prepare for Portland Regionals. I almost forgot which one it was. This is standard, and we're just coming off of Charlotte. But before we jump into it, let's get some introductions. We have a couple new guys here, and now you're all slouching in your cameras. Isaiah, go ahead.
Um, Wait, my introduction, is that what I'm doing?
Yes.
All right. Uh, Hi, I'm Isaiah Williams. Um, I am a Pokemon player. I'm a part of Team Top Cut Comics. I've been playing for 8 years. And yeah, that's me.
That. Rukin, go ahead.
Hey, my name's Rukan. I'm from Team Dead Draw Gaming. I've been playing for about half a year, and I've been taking a break from regionals for a bit, but I'm still pretty active in the community, mostly just helping my team iron out decks and writing articles now and then.
All right, Finn.
Hey, I own CutterTab.com. I go to a lot of regionals. I got second at Costa Mesa. And yeah. Oh, PPG. Yep.
And Ultra Pro.
Oh yeah.
Caleb, go ahead.
I'm Caleb Gadamer. I play for Team DDG like Rukan. This is like my 6th competitive year playing, and I write for 60 Cards, Poke Beach, make video content for Dead Draw Gaming, and coach through the Dark Patch.
Cool. Very cool. So, coming from Charlotte, since Charlotte was just happened, we're gonna have a bit of an abbreviated meta forecast, but there's obviously a big change coming. But before we get to that, let's talk about the results from Charlotte. The big deck, in my mind, were Buzzwole, Lycanroc, which had, I think, 4 of the top 8. Is that right? 4 of the top 8.
4. Yep.
And then the other 4 were like Sylveon, Greninja, probably some other
Zoroark,
Glaceon, and then what was the last?
Gardevoir.
Gardevoir.
Yeah,
Is that a reflection of the meta of how is that a reflection of the meta? Finnegan.
No.
Caleb, that's fine. Whoever's good.
No. That's the quick answer. I don't think so. Well, I think the 4 Lycanroc Buzzwole sort of our fighting was huge. It seemed like I think I played against like 4 fighting decks day one.
I hit 0.
Yeah, so I definitely, and there was a lot of different fighting stuff. Like there was Buzzwole Garbodor, Buzzwole Lycanroc, and then I also saw this Buzzwole deck with like Scorched Earth and like 17 fighting. I don't know if you guys saw that, but yeah, that part of the top cut I think is a good reflection of the meta. I didn't see any Glaceon Zoroark at all, so that definitely not too much. Gardevoir seems to be on the decline too. Greninja was played by like 3 or 4 players. And Sylveon, I guess, probably saw a decent amount. It seems like newer players like to play middle decks for some reason. But, yeah.
Okay. Caleb, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree pretty much with that. I think Zoroark Lycanroc was probably like the 2nd or 1st most played deck there. A lot of the pros played it. I played it. And that didn't make a top 8 spot, so it's obviously not representative there, but definitely Buzzrock was one of the most top played decks, but the rest of that is just like fringe outliers that had 1 or 2 spots in day 2, and they're all good decks in their own right, so they did make it to top 8, but not too many people were actually playing those. And then Zoropod, obviously, one of the most, probably in the top 3 for most played decks. That, Buzzrock, and Zoroark.
So Isaiah, does that make Buzzrock the best deck in format?
My answer to that is absolutely not. I think that it was just, they figured out a cute way to deal with Mew, with the Oricorios and the Baby Mew. But I think that there's ways to beat that, and that doesn't work forever. And I mean, trade is broken. I still think that's something with that is the best deck. So.
Yeah.
So, what are ways to beat Oricorio?
Well, to beat Oricorio, you could just not play Buzzwole or Psychic Weak things. but to deal with so you're talking about with just Mew to how to stop that from being countered. Mewtwo I think is a solid answer just because it doesn't get one shot by the baby Mew or the Oricorio, but it still deals with Buzzwole fine. So I think players will definitely be swapping over to Mewtwo. I think that's definitely the right call for Portland.
Okay, cool. So, Rukan, do you have anything to add to this meta? Any thoughts?
Well, I've kind of been focused on the Portland meta, but it kind of looks like there's like this trend from Costa Mesa and Charlotte. It's like the rise of the Zoroark counter decks. And it's almost like the Buzz Rocks that were in top 32 sort of, they had a bit of an easier time because like there's all of these Zoroark counter decks and they're not countering Buzz Rock. But maybe I'm a little bit off on that analysis, but
they were countering it with Mew, but they were ready for the Mew.
Also, like Mewtwo, I thought it was good for Charlotte. I've playing Weavile heavily, and Weavile just naturally runs like a Mr. Mime, not for the Buzzwole matchup, but just for the rule of evil. When you put up a Mewtwo and a Mr. Mime, it just puts Buzzwole in such a very, very hard position. If they don't hit their max elixirs, they like Jet Punch, then you max potion DC again, and you've taken 4 prizes with a Mewtwo, and they took 0 prizes, and it's just brutal for Buzzwole.
To be fair, if Buzzwole doesn't hit max elixirs, it loses to everything.
Yeah.
I like that Mime idea a lot. I like that. I really might use that.
Yeah, but we ended up like not playing that deck because in testing it just does really poorly against Zoroark, especially if they run a high parallel count. So that's kind of why we were scared off of that deck. But I think Weavile does really well against everything else, just not Zoroark with parallels.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, obviously now the meta is shifting with Lucario, and Ruben, you've been hyping Lucario. Maybe you've been its biggest hype man so far. So talk to us about Lucario, ways to play it, etc.
Okay, so quick shout out. Kid Stark and I are going to be writing a pair of articles, one on DDG and one on Dark Patch covering Lucario. We're going to try to get that out. I've mostly been playtesting Zoroark Lucario, and I think aside from Zoroark being really good, I think Lucario's sort of a combo deck because you need the fighting energy, you need the Lucario, you probably want a Guzma or a strong or a choice band, right, on top of that. So that's a lot to play out of hand, and the only way to do that consistently is to just have the Zoroark engine. So I think that's really strong. I think it just completely rolls the Golisopod. I think it's nearly like a 75 to 80% matchup favored for Zoroark Lucario. I think it's quite favored against Zoroark Gardevoir because it's extremely hard for a Gardevoir to put 5 energy plus a choice band to knock out a Lucario with 1 energy on it. And if they don't do that, they have to like Twilight because if they hit, you GX them and then you knock them out. So it's not as favored against Zoroark Gardevoir as it is against Zoroark Golisopod, but it's still very, very favored. So I think that's really good. I think it's strong in general. You can, if you get 2 strong energies down, you one-shot a Buzzwole on top of any psychic techs you have. So you just have so many extra ways to just deal with the first max elixir Buzzwole.
Yeah.
Once again, I'm running Mewtwo because like it's just better against Buzzwole now, and it just doubles down on the Zoroark matchups because they're going to try to Mew EX your Lucario, and then you Mewtwo the Mew EX and you end them, and they're like, oh, if I don't have Guzma, I can't knock out this Mewtwo. I just traded like 2 prizes to I just traded 4 prizes to get 2 prizes essentially. So that it takes that matchup from like maybe like a 75%, it pushes it to 85% because now you can whiff a turn as Lucario, not attack, and then still win the prize race. So it's really, really good. The problem is Lycanroc Lucario is a deck, and you do not beat that deck if they draw resources. You just don't. So I think that's the main turnoff for Zoroark Lucario. I think the base power level of the deck is obscenely high. It's probably the highest in the format, but it doesn't beat Lucario Lycanroc, so that might discourage a lot of people from playing it.
Is Lucario Lycanroc with Octillery?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. Kid Stark's writing the article on that list. He's playtested it more than me, so I'm not going to comment on it, aside from the fact that it is a huge, huge counter to Zoroark Lucario, and it's pretty darn good against most other Zoroark variants.
Okay.
But it's also like super inconsistent because you don't have the Zoroark engine, and then you're like also really bad against Ho-Oh, or you're a lot worse against Volcanion and Bulu. So it also has its downsides. So maybe you just play Zoroark Lucario and you just gamble not to hit the Lycanroc Lucarios, or you play the Lycanroc Lucario and you just hope you hit all of the Zoroarks. But neither has like 100% matchup spread.
Right. Caleb, what do you want to say?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I think it's really interesting that Lucario comes out and then immediately those are just kind of the two biggest polarized decks, like Lucario, Zoroark, or the converse of with Lycanroc, and you get, like Rukan said, yeah, you got to pick one and then you beat all the Zoroarks, but it's not really a happy medium between the two of those. I like Lycanroc because it helps you pull off that combo, like you have Guzma built in with Lycanroc, and the only problem about that deck is that it's a little clunky, but a video this week for Dead Draw is on that, so check it out.
Cool.
Do you guys have Octo?
Yep, 2-2.
Good.
One more thing to mention, there is like the Lucario Garbodor deck, but I don't think Garbodor is a good card right now, so I wouldn't play that. I'm not gonna
That seems incredibly clunky. I don't know, I saw Finn raise his eyebrows there.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
Clunky deck and just making it even clunkier with Garbodor.
Okay. So what decks? I do think do you guys agree that Lucario is going to be a huge play for Portland? Like a lot of people are going to be playing it.
It's going to be meta shifting. I wouldn't necessarily play it, but it's going to be meta shifting.
Okay. What deck can answer Lucario and can answer a majority of the meta that we saw at Charlotte? Finnegan, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, my best answer to that is Buzzwole Garbodor, with Trashalanche, sort of the way that Frank made top 8 at, I forget what Intercontinentals that was, but that's what I'm interested in right now because I think it has a very good matchup against Zoroark variants, and then you have Trashalanche against Lucario and Buzzwole. So that's my best answer right now, I think. The only reason I raised my eyebrows before was just because I think somebody said that Garbodor wasn't very good, and I think Garbodor is quite good right now, actually. I just think that it's a really bad pair with Lucario specifically, but with something else, I think it could work.
Mm-hmm.
Like Buzzwole.
Isaiah, do you have any thoughts on decks that can handle both Lucario and the previous meta?
Yeah, so one thing I was just thinking about that's kind of like vanilla that might be able to deal with Lucario. I'm curious to see what you guys' opinion is on this, but because I feel like Lucario is great until you just like don't hit it because they can't Acerola and they can't GX, and so I was thinking possibly like a uber consistent version of Zoroark might be able to, or Zoroark, I mean, might be able to deal with the deck. Because you can just target down Riolas, but I actually haven't tested Portland meta so much, so I'm not exactly sure. And then also on top of that, I have been dipping my toes in Espeon Zoroark a little bit. I don't know how great it is just yet, but I've put a few games in, like 4, so we'll see how that goes.
4.
But yeah, I'm curious to see what you got. What's your insight on Zoroark matchup?
I played that today a lot, and it's pretty bad.
Oh, okay.
Against
You
Lucario?
can't skip. Yeah, Zoroark against
For
what was
parallel,
the
baby.
deck? Just Lucario. Yeah, it's still pretty bad.
Bad for who?
You can't skip a beat at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like I managed to play a few of these matchups since I've been grinding like nothing but Zoroark Lucario since the card came out. So I managed to play a few Espeon variants, both Espeon Garb and Zoroark Espeon, and it's still hugely favored for the Lucario deck because by the time the Lucario comes out, it's taking 2 prizes, and then if you knock it out with like Espeon or something like that, you just get knocked out by Mewtwo, and now you're even farther behind. Now you're like 4 prizes. Your opponent has 2 prizes left to take, and you're just knocking out a Mewtwo at best.
Maybe
Maybe not
making
even knocking it out.
the matchup even easier for them.
Yeah,
Finding
yeah.
another
That makes
type
that,
weak Pokemon.
Yeah, I was thinking about that with Mewtwo and Mew. It's probably like a huge, like that's like just a natural counter in like almost
Yeah,
I
every
played
deck.
some crazy
so.
guy in PTCGO randoms the other day. He was playing Professor's Letter and he had Grass and Psychic.
Wow.
With Eevee, of course. Glaceon and
Wow.
I think something people might be missing with Lucario is that since you do need to evolve at the turn to get that damage, something like Garbotoxin combined with an N to 2 or an N to 1 could be huge. Like if they don't have anything to deal with that, I don't know how they can keep going once that happens. I feel like a deck that can take advantage of that could, come back after they make a big lead. After the Lucario deck gets a big lead, they could come back that way.
So I've played a lot of against a lot of Buzzwole Garbodor on ladder. It's a pretty popular deck, and my experience is you just run 2 to 3 parallel cities. You parallel the Buzzwole player, and they're limited essentially like Buzzwole, maybe a Carbink or a Lele, and then 2 Trubbishes. They want one of the Trubbishes for a Garbotoxin, and they probably need the other one for a Trash Lance to deal with the Riolu into Lucario combo, right? But that's a really, really fragile board state, right? The Zoroark Lucario deck typically wants to run 4 Guzma because it's so combo focused. You want to hit all of your combo pieces. So you're going to be able to Guzma up that Garbotoxin. And from there on, once you play the parallel, once you Guzma up the Garbotoxin, either they're not going to have a Trash Lance to use or they're not going to have a Garbotoxin to use. And from my experience there, Lucario just sweeps. Because maybe their Jet Punch plays into a Cantankerous Beating, or maybe they try to ignore a Guzma around it. You get 3 energies onto your Lucario, and now it sweeps 4 prizes after already taking 2 prizes. I think it's very, very favored for Zoroark Lucario, so long as they run a reasonable parallel city count, because, Garbodor decks, they're not very consistent. If they have a high field blower count, they're going to have a hard time staying consistent. And even if they hit the field blower, you already bumped off some stuff with the parallel, so that's sort of how I feel about that matchup.
Yeah, I played a lot of Buzzgarb, like the Trash Lance deck. I kind of made that deck, gave it to Frank, and then he made a couple changes, and obviously had better finishes than me with it. But I think that's the best pairing with Garbodor in Standard right now, just because Buzzwall's solid. The deck is just so linear, and what kind of happened to me in Australia is I played against opponents, and sometimes they just get lucky, and if they've got Blower Mew in the same turn, you don't have much. Mew is actually kind of a problem for that deck, since your counter to Mew is using your Trash Lance Garb, and in order to hit that, you need Trash Lance to have that in play. Assume your opponent has enough items. Sometimes they might not, and then you also need that Rainbow, and you're only playing 4. Sometimes you have to Sycamore them away. It's just a really clunky deck of version of Garb, which I still think it's the best way to play it, but I don't know, it's just too. It gets punished so hard when people draw average or above average even, and your N that's the win condition. So if you're not getting your opponent into a bad hand off the end, then it's gonna be downhill from there. And parallel hurts you a lot.
Yeah, I feel like I'd always want to be the Zoroark player if I had to play that matchup.
Yeah, you just have more options. Buzzgarb's just gonna attach and attack, and that's about it. And end.
How is Lucario evolving every turn? Are you using Acerolas? Are you using Devo Spray? Or are you just evolving new Riolus?
You just get the most value out of it every time you evolve. Every time you evolve, you want to be like Rukan said, you want to combo that with a Guzma. Every Lucario you put down, you want to get 2 prizes, and if that happens, it did its job. And then you just do another one, or you go for the GX attack if they don't KO you. So Acerola is just a little too slow.
Okay.
Yeah. So long as you take 2 prizes, you're okay.
Right.
Not attacking and passing the turn between the combo.
And then you just force them to either, overextend to get a 1-hit KO, which is pretty uncommon for most decks, or they have to either Guzma around it, and then you save the Lucario, and then I think Rukan also said earlier, you can put another energy, and then you can go for whatever its second attack that does 130 for fighting colorless.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. What other decks do you all expect to rise up at this tournament? Maybe that we didn't see do as well in Charlotte. What decks do you all expect to perform here at Portland? Caleb, why don't you start?
I think Bulu's gonna maybe see a bit of a resurgence. A lot of people just rolling the dice on it, but it's pretty decent against most of the Lucario decks. And then people might tinker around with Garb, but I I think most decks are prepared for Garb, and that's like its advantage is people not being prepared, or you'll get those people that might have a good day and people run poorly against them. But if people hit one of their 3 blowers that most decks are going to be playing, you're just going to lose.
Okay. Finnegan, what are your thoughts on other good decks for Portland?
I don't think I have anything. I don't think
Lucario or
I
Garbodor.
don't know what else people are gonna play other than
Buzzrock.
what did well, and then the Zork variants like Ghostbud Zork, and then Lucario. I don't see, because I mean it's the same meta, right? We're just gonna see probably the same stuff. The only thing that would change is if there was decks that people think counters Lucario might pop up. Bulu was the one deck I was gonna actually mention.
Okay, Isaiah.
Well, we saw a Ninja top 4, so I wouldn't be surprised to see those numbers increase again. Not looking forward to that, but so might want to consider Tina promo again. But I don't think it's like I still have to think about that one if it's going to be worth the spot, just because it did top 4, but the other person who played the same exact 60 also went like 1-3-2 drops.
Yeah.
You guys know how Lucario does against Greninja?
I've played it.
It's actually pretty decent against it.
You get the 130 on the second turn.
Yeah.
I mean, on the first Greninja, and then they stitch you, and then you have the option of Cantankerous Feet to take out the next Greninja.
So they immediately lose 2 Greninjas right there, and then they have to have Splash comboed with that to like actually recover the pieces. So that's a good thing.
That's a great.
It's better than Lycanroc for sure. Yeah. Maybe not better than Pot, but it's pretty good against Greninja.
Yeah.
Awesome. Rukan, any sleeper decks or decks we didn't see from Charlotte?
I've already talked Caleb's ear off about Bulu in our private chat. I'll add that since I think Lucario is gonna, if not discourage, then probably filter out a lot of the Zoropods and Zoro Gardevoirs from the top deck, from the top tables. I think that's really good for Bulu because I think Zoro Gardevoir and Just Gardevoir and Zoropod were 3 of its toughest matchups because the Zoropod, has the parallels, has the armor press. The Gardevoir has that extra HP. Gardevoir has the parallels and the extra HP. They were the most tricky matchups. And if indeed that there's less of these, I think Bulu has a clearer path to do well once it hits the top tables than it would have in previous tournaments where like it would hit the top tables and then you'd hit a good player playing Zoropod and then you just lose to them because they would outplay you.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's probably like the best prediction you're really going to get of this event, unless the other option is that people don't really turn to Lucario and then it just kind of stays the same, and then a couple like random people actually do play it, and then what happens when that happens.
Yeah.
Like
it really depends on whether we have like 50 or 100 people playing Lucario.
Right.
Yeah. And this event's going to probably be anywhere from like 400, maybe 500 people. So it's going to be on the smaller side.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So then I wanted to ask you guys, what is the best deck that you are not considering for Portland?
Greninja.
Okay.
Should have been prepared for this. I know you always ask this question, and I hadn't thought about it.
Isaiah, how about you?
Well, given this discussion we've had, I think my answer is now Lucario, Lycanroc, Octillery, because I refuse to play a deck that is not Zoroark something until Zoroark goes out of meta.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that sounds pretty good. Like, I see what you guys were talking about. It makes sense, but I probably will not be playing it.
Okay.
Well, I'm not going there, so it's a moot point, but
so what's the best deck?
I've been in love with Zoroark Weavile since that came out, but there's no way I would play that into a Lucario meta. You just have no way to beat Lucario at all. Also, one more thing. That's one more deck that beats Bulu, but gets knocked out by Lucario. So just one more plus on the side of Bulu here.
How's Bulu do against Lucario? It's fine, I guess.
Well, you have Mew. You knock that out. And then they have to knock out the Mew because you didn't discard energy. And if you're playing like lucario-gx, you hit that for weakness too. So now you're hitting their entire everything for weakness, and you have a one prizer that they can't really ignore.
It's pretty bad.
I mean, Bulu's not consistent, but like
Right.
it's as close to an auto win as Bulu can get given its consistency.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think probably the best deck that I'm definitely not going to play is Bulu. Or yeah, I don't know how good it even is, but I'm considering a lot of decks. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd imagine in the Bulu versus Lucario matchup, the fact that Lucario strong can one shot, or Lucario any energy can one shot Vikavolt, right?
Oh yeah.
Is that relevant?
I mean, if they don't discard with the Mew, like the Mew stays there, so it's still taking.
Yeah, then you just
Right.
Nice.
Oh, right.
And then
they
Additionally,
play
at that
Mew.
point, that's where you get like those extra turns of just manually attaching, so you can power up a Bulu on the bench, and like you don't even need Vikavolt, because
Right.
if you could just get one strong charge, put it on a Mew, KO, then put up Vikavolt, KO, whatever, then you KO with Mew, and then you have 2 energies on a Bulu, and you just
you've essentially spent your
that.
turn and a Guzma 7 prize gaming yourself.
yeah.
That makes sense.
Yes, Rukan always complains about how on the PTCGO ladder,
Goes for
they
Vikavolt.
target for the Vikavolt.
Not at the right time. Like there's good moments to go for Vikavolt, and then there's other moments where you do it and then you just lose.
Yeah.
People just always go for it.
That was me. Okay. So, I have one other question. Oh, does anyone have any insight on Portland local players, like people around Portland? I think Finian, you're in the general area, not like Portland, but
I live
your
in
locals would
California.
be going there, right?
I mean, Kian will be there. I know.
Yeah,
He's
I'm
NorCal.
driving there. It's like a 10-hour drive for me, I
Oh,
think.
wow. Okay.
So I'm not
Never mind.
to it. But I went up to a lot of cups 2 years ago. I remember that players were a lot more open to playing kind of wacky decks.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Like on the
that.
West Coast.
Yeah.
The
top west.
yeah,
North.
Northwest. Specifically, it seems like players really like crazy stuff. Like, even their good players out of there like to play really crazy stuff. Like I remember Jacob Van Wagner
Yeah.
who played like, I mean, he won with Archie Stoice.
Right.
And then Sam Ho, or I still don't know how to pronounce his name.
Alex Koch's from there, and he's
yeah.
really good, but he plays pretty crazy decks.
Yes, he does.
Oh,
So
last year, Portland regionals, like it was expanded, and most of the day 2 was Groudon.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, sweet.
Okay, so
With Super
expect
Potion.
the unexpected. Super Potion?
Yeah, Groudon played Super Potion at that
Yeah,
point.
that's right.
The one that discards energy, don't they
Yeah.
need those?
Yeah.
Mega Turbo.
Oh, that was a card back then.
I miss it. Okay, cool. Well, this has been pretty brief, but we have a pretty good snapshot of what the meta is going into the tournament because we just came off of a regional, and then you got an idea of how Lucario is going to shake things up. Any last shout outs? I'll go around and then we can end. Unless anyone has anything else they want to add about Portland. Bet. Isaiah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just shout out to my team again, team Top Cut Comics. Thank you guys, and I want to shout out to my group chat. All my hexes live in Texas. Love you guys. Thanks for helping me test.
Hex is
all
awful.
right.
Okay,
All right,
Rukan,
yeah.
go ahead.
Shout out to my team, DDG. Plus, like I said earlier, I got an article that I'm writing alongside Kid Start. It's going to be a 2-part article. Part of it's going to be on the DDG site. The other part's going to be on the Dark Patch, and we're going to try to squeeze that out before Portland. So, give you some idea of what we think about the Lucario decks and the variants of them.
Finn.
Shout out my sponsors, Pro Play Games and Ultra Pro. Check out my website, cuttertap.com. If you're interested in coaching, feel free to send me an email at cuttertap@gmail.com. That's about it.
Mm-hmm. And I have a video of Finnegan's coaching Gardevoir at the beginning of the season if you're interested in seeing how he does it and how well he thinks about the game. Caleb, go ahead.
Shout out to Dead Draw Gaming, my sponsor. If you go over to deaddrawgaming.com, you can find great price singles and if you want to see a portfolio of like all of my stuff that's out there, all my writing and stuff, you go to google.com/CalebGettimer BTCG. You can see pretty much everything that I've got out there. Find my coaching at thedarkpatch.com. And that's about it.
Awesome. Thank you. For myself, I write articles about rogue decks on Flipside Gaming, and you can use discount code SEAGROVE, all caps, at checkout for 10% off. Thank you guys so much for your time. Good luck, everybody, going to Portland, and play Lucario. Thanks.